Wolfman is a 2025 horror film following Blake, his daughter Ginger, and his wife Charlotte as they take a trip to a long-forgotten cabin in the woods. As the title does suggest, they are attacked by a creature resembling a wolf. It is during said attack that Blake receives wounds causing him to change over the course of the night. Even with that vague synopsis, you can guess the majority of the film's plot points that follow. I am joined here today with Johnny Cruz from Directors Dossiers podcast, and we're going to be discussing all things Wolfman 2025. How are you doing today, Johnny?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. He's got a great podcast, one of the best ones on film today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm gonna put that quote on the header on YouTube.
Great. So do you think my synopsis, my summary of Wolfman is accurate?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's kind of there's not a lot in this movie to get inaccurate.
No, it's very stock. There's not much that really changes or is unexpected throughout the course of it.
Really?
I kind of saw everything coming.
So I'll say this. What I did appreciate about it is, like, sure, you can probably guess how it goes, but the thing I like that I didn't expect is how fast it got going. Because usually when you see movies like this, it's always like, oh, you see the opening, and then it's like, oh, here's how he's doing today. And then they have the scene where it's like, geez, Bill, you haven't been the same since the accident, like that obligatory scene in every movie. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, oh, I have to go to the house. And then you expect them to, get to the house. Oh, this place is great. Thanks for bringing us here, honey. And they just skip all that, and they don't even get to the house, and then everything starts. And
yes, I did.
They just skipped 20 minutes we didn't need. It was great.
Yes, I did appreciate that aspect of it. One of the things I put as a positive element was that the pace was quick and it didn't waste time. It didn't meander. But I felt like a lot of that, even then, well, I guess we'll just get right into the spoilers because it's kind of hard to have this kind of discussion without just talking about what happens.
Yeah.
But the family is driving to this cabin where his father died, and they meet this creepy guy, and the creepy guy says he's going to escort them to the cabin. Then that guy dies like 2 minutes later. Was he ever brought up again?
Later, near the end, she gets the gun that he had. I don't think they ever talk about, oh, poor Derek.
At first, I thought the first werewolf or the second werewolf attack, I thought that was supposed to be Derek. Which that would have made more sense to me. But no, it's just the dad that went missing immediately. Which you can guess from the opening scene.
Did you sit through this movie and go, okay, that's fine, or were you ever enthralled, or did you ever feel any tension or suspense during the
Not really. Like to me the movie felt very flat from start to finish. I felt like the cabin scenes especially were just sort of filler. And the part that really bothered me is they're running into the cabin, they get to the cabin door, and suddenly this like 100-year-old door can protect them from this werewolf.
And
the werewolf can't get through the wooden door, but he can, tear people limb from limb. That was interesting. And the cabin scenes generally I just felt were very flat. And one of the things I put in my notes, and I don't know how you feel about this, is that the characters are stock archetypes, which is fine, but they do try to add in certain things with these characters to make them less stock, like the daughter is psychic, but it doesn't really pay off. And that's sort of how I feel with the cabin itself. They put in a copy paste creepy cabin, and there's a scene where a spider's crawling on the wall. It's never really brought up again. It's just there. And a lot of the things that happen in the cabin, well, they try to elaborate on it and they try to make it more interesting than just a creepy cabin. It still ends up as just a creepy cabin.
I think I like this movie a lot more than you did.
That's good. We can have a little bit of a debate here.
But also, you saw it a few days earlier than me. So did you see or did you get exposed to the reviews at all before you saw it?
I did not. No.
Okay. So because I went into it and I heard like, oh yeah, whatever, right? And that was all the reviews. And then maybe my expectations were lowered, and I was sitting there like, this is like when they're running up to the door when the first Wolfman is first chasing them. I was kind of like you're playing a video game and freaking, there's like a monster chasing you. I got that feeling in my back, and I thought the cabin stuff, like with the spider, was because you hear that sound, and I think they could have like, they were in danger of letting that scene go too long because they're just trying to wring out any suspense they can get from it. And you hear that sound, you're like, what the fuck is going on up there? It doesn't sound like the Wolfman. And then he finally gets up there, and I was invested in the whole thing. It didn't go on too long, and then the reveal that it's a spider, and he just has this crazy hearing now, where he
Right.
hears everything. I
Right.
enjoyed touches like that, and even the thing with, you know, movies like this. I'm not looking for a character who's like, they don't. The main character doesn't have to be Hamlet in a Wolfman movie.
No, no.
For me, all I needed was the thing with the daughter where he's like, "Hey, what am I thinking?" And she's like, "Oh, you're thinking I have the best daughter ever and stuff." I thought that was, and then the way they kept using that throughout the movie, I was like, "All right, that's solid. That's all I need."
Mhm. I feel like we're kind of going out of order here, and which is my fault, and I acknowledge that. But maybe we should start from the beginning.
Yeah,
Okay, so I love the opening scene with him as the kid.
yeah,
The opening scene is he's in the woods with his father. His father's kind of a dick. And he's like messing around. He's about to eat some poison mushrooms, and the dad yells at him about it. And then the boy runs off on his own. He's got a rifle on his back, and he finds the wolf man or the werewolf, whatever. His father immediately knows what it is. He gets the kid to was it duck blind? No, tree blind, deer blind.
Deer blind. Yeah,
Deer blind. Yeah. Gets a kid to a deer blind, and they hide from the wolf man. I thought that was actually the best scene in the movie. That was tense, and I take back what I said earlier. That scene had me on the edge of my seat. And then we cut to the present day. He's with his daughter. They did try to give him some psychological trauma from his dad because he scolds his daughter and he immediately apologizes for it. He's trying not to become his father, which is poetic because he becomes a werewolf. I understand. And then all that is fine. I do think it could have maybe been set up a little bit longer. I know I said I like the tight pace of this movie, but I do think there could have been more with the daughter and the wife beforehand because those scenes felt rushed to me, especially in the apartment. And then they find out the dad is dead, so they drive to the cabin in the woods. And maybe you can help me with this because I kind of thought Blake, I kind of thought he remembered seeing the werewolf when he was a kid because there were certain times where he sort of seemed like he knew what was going on. And then other times he completely didn't and was oblivious. So what's your take on that?
my take on that is he saw like an animal, and because you get to see like a quick silhouette of the wolf man in the scope when he's looking for the deer and the kid, and then he just thinks, oh, it's it might be a bear or something, and then he hears his dad going, hey, he's on the radio with all the locals. He's like, hey, Bill, we got to get this thing. This is crazy, and then he's so he understands that this isn't just any animal. The threat is like let's say 3 times higher than that of like a bear or something like that. So I thought he
Right.
just had a vague idea that there's a weird animal out there. I don't think he knew all this. It's a guy. That's a wolf.
Right. But
It did seem like he sort of forgot a little bit. I'm like, I feel like
yeah,
he forgot in the last 30 years.
which made me wonder if that was shot after the fact. Like they're like, we need a scene to establish this.
Hmm.
So it made me wonder if the flashback scene was shot after the fact and then added later because it wasn't really addressed. He didn't say anything like, I remember this wolf or this weird creature in the woods that walked on 2 legs. Nothing like that ever really happened. But they're driving to the cabin. They're in a moving truck. And Derek, the fellow woods dweller, says he's going to escort them back to the father's cabin because he's not entirely sure where it was. Derek gets in the truck and they are attacked by the wolf man. Derek dies. They run to the cabin, and as I mentioned earlier, they're able to prevent the wolf man from getting in by a 100-year-old oak door. So that was, suspension of disbelief and all that. But I did have a little bit of a eye roll moment there.
Also, Derek is the only human death in the movie.
Yes.
There's only one guy who gets like really brutally killed. The rest of the deaths, like when he killed later, I know I'm skipping ahead, but when he kills the wolf, when the new Wolfman, the dad, kills the original Wolfman or one of the original Wolfmen, who turns out to be his dad, he just like, bites his neck and you barely see anything.
Yeah.
and then he dies, and then he gets shot. So there's no, you know. I mean, I think it probably could have done with a few, like maybe a little extra couple of dads or something, or hunters getting killed. You know what I
Or
mean?
maybe they use that old radio. A couple people show up and they get executed on their way to the cabin. Just something.
Yeah. What is that? Like an opposite of a Deus Ex Machina, like in The Shining, with
Yeah.
Batman Carruthers, when he shows up and just immediately gets axed to death.
We're probably the only people that'll compare Wolfman to The Shining.
Well, and I saw the director Lee Winnell. He told Julia Garner, he was like, "You're going to be the Shelley Duvall of this movie." So apparently there was an inspiration from The Shining, which, I mean, what horror movie doesn't take, like,
Yeah.
what horror director doesn't go, "Oh yeah, we took inspiration from The Shining"?
Yeah.
I mean,
Julia Gardner, aside from some of the gore effects and stuff, which I'll talk about later, I thought Julia Gardner gave a really great performance in this movie. I thought she was actually the best part.
you mentioned earlier when you were talking about the beginning, when he was a kid, you mentioned that his dad goes, "Hey, don't you eat those mushrooms?"
Yeah.
Whatever, what are they called, like Sagittarius mushrooms, whatever. And I was shocked that didn't come back as like a thing. Like
that was very strange.
Mushrooms that tricked him.
I've actually
set up.
I thought the same thing. I thought they're either gonna like shove those mushrooms down the werewolf's throat, or it's gonna be like something where the daughter finds them in the woods. She's hungry. They don't have any food in the cabin. She finds them in the woods and like becomes incapacitated, and they got to use like the werewolf blood to revive her or something like that. I thought one of those two things was going to happen, but it wasn't really ever brought up again. I guess it was just to show that the dad was like a woodsman.
Yeah, or maybe they were trying to avoid comparisons to Phantom Thread.
Oh, that's right. That wasn't Phantom Thread. I saw that movie the day I turned 18.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, first hour.
Wait, what year were you born?
Or I'm sorry, first year not 18, 17. It was the first R-rated movie I went to without adult supervision.
Oh.
That would have been 2018. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think I was 18 maybe when I saw it.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Let me check. I think that was 2018. Let me make sure I'm right on that. This is saying 2017. Oh, that makes sense.
It came out like wide January 2018, probably.
Right. Yes, exactly. Wide January. Yeah.
Can I ask, are you familiar with like any previous Wolfman movies, like American Werewolf in London and stuff like that?
I have seen American Werewolf in London. I have seen a lot of the Lon Chaney original Wolfman as well.
Because I know there's like a community of people who are disappointed with the transformation stuff of the Wolfman in this movie, because of course they're going to compare it to stuff, transformation scenes like American Werewolf in London. I haven't seen that movie, but when I was in college, I had a film genre class, and the professor showed us clips from that transformation in American Werewolf in London. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. So I knew.
Yeah. American Werewolf in London is it's a better Wolfman movie than this, in my opinion. It has comedic elements that are actually underplayed and pretty funny. The transformation effects are all practical, and as you said, you already know they're great. But I didn't have a problem with really any of the transformation scenes in this edition. I thought they were all pretty well done.
Yeah, I thought like if I'm expecting, if maybe some people would be disappointed if they were expecting more, but what we got was like very well done. I wasn't seeing anything going, all right, this is a little ridiculous. The only thing, because I know the director, because now we're in an era where like you market your movies going, there's no CGI in it.
Yeah.
So the director was like, the Wolfman, costume, makeup, whatever you want to call it, is all practical. There's no CGI. And I think, not that I'm not saying CGI would have made it better, but I think the one thing that for me I wanted from the design, which is what we saw in the first two silhouette shots we saw of the Wolfman, was like a more stocky or husky physicality to him, where he looked like sort of like a mini Wolverine type, had physicality. And then when we see the actual, at the let's say and halfway through the movie we get our first full look at Wolfman. He's sort of just like a guy, who has hair.
Yeah. They cut his hair. They shaved his face a little bit. They shaved his face up here, but he has a beard down here. Yeah. Um, the creature design generally I thought was pretty good. It had elements of other wolf men, but it had its own vibe going for it as well. I really like the transformation scene, the first actual like full transformation scene with Blake, where he rips his jaw forward. I thought that was really cool. I also thought his, I don't know, what would you call it, wolf vision, his wolf sense.
His Morbius vision or something.
Yeah, I thought that was handled really well. That was interesting. I like the part where he's first starting to transform and he starts scratching relentlessly at his arm. I thought that part was really cool. There's a lot of stuff in this movie that I actually thought was really well done. It just, like, the Wolfman immediately is his father. The father went missing 10 years ago and suddenly they just confirm he's dead. Immediately it's his dad. And the Derek guy being killed, they could have made him into a second Wolfman just for some variety. And it just fell flat for me in a lot of areas. It's far from the worst movie I've ever seen, but I personally just walked away from it like, yeah, it's fine. It's a good matinee movie. It's a good Saturday afternoon movie. You just want
I
to
saw it on a Tuesday afternoon, so maybe it's because I would have. Well, actually, I have A-list, so I technically didn't pay for a ticket. But since the ticket would have only been $5, maybe I was like, all right. I went by myself. There was these two old ladies behind me who were really into it. They were talking, like, not talking in like an asshole way, but talking like, "Oh, if I had a gun, I'd shoot him."
That's funny.
At least the people who were in the theater with me were enjoying it.
That was another thing. Like, where did the silver bullet thing go?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think of that because I haven't really been exposed to a lot of Wolfman stuff.
I think another reason that I may have been harsher on this movie than you is because I just saw like Nosferatu like a week before this.
Uh-huh. You like Nosferatu?
Oh, Nosferatu is great, dude. So I was probably going in with a little bit of a bias there.
Well, we're kind of the exact opposite because I saw Nosferatu and I probably feel about that movie how you feel about this one.
Really?
Maybe less so. Like, I don't hate Nosferatu. I liked it.
Okay.
Well, the problem is I went to see it with my sister, my little sister and her friend. So I was like, oh, it's a vampire movie. And then it turned out it was just like all about sex and stuff. It was all weird. So maybe I was like, oh, yeah, it was weird. But the one sequence, I know this is Wolfman, but the one sequence I liked in Nosferatu is when, because he's a realtor and he has to go sell Nosferatu's, a deed to whatever house, mansion. And he goes there. And of course, Nosferatu is like a giant monster. You should get away from it immediately. But he has to be like, yeah, can you just sign this? Like, he's like obviously going to kill him, but he's like, he's sweating. I really like that part of it. But,
yeah.
Anyway, go back to Wolfman.
Yeah. So they're in the cabin. Blake is starting to transform. The wife is starting to suspect that something really strange is going on here. The daughter is getting panicky. The actual werewolf that's already fully transformed, which is his father, is continuing to attack the house. One scene that I thought was actually pretty funny is when the werewolf reaches through the dog door. I thought that was humorous.
Did they have a dog in the opening?
Yeah, they had a German Shepherd.
Okay, because I couldn't remember the dog. I'm like, where did the dog door come from? But I guess I forgot the dog.
Yeah, in the opening scene before they go into the woods, young Blake is eating cereal.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So that was a nice little tie-in. And then, okay, so they're being attacked in the cabin. There's a truck outside that they want to jumpstart so that they can get out of there. So the wife, Charlotte, escorts Blake into the truck. They get it started, and then the fog clears and the Wolfman is on the hood. He busts through the glass and starts attacking them, and he reaches in and pulls the drive shaft from the truck, which, again, he can do that with that wooden door. This kryptonite. You can't get through that wooden door.
Also, if I knew I was being chased by a Wolfman,
yeah,
because at that point she knew,
right?
That whatever was second was obviously a guy. I would just leave the jump pack on the hood. I wouldn't go out and get it and like and make you wrap it up and put it back in. I would just start driving.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Yeah.
They couldn't have that reveal shot if she did that.
Right.
They're probably on the day were like, fuck, we can't do that shot if this doesn't make sense.
What was that thing they were on top of afterward? Was that like a garden?
Like a greenhouse type thing.
Okay, so they get on top of a greenhouse. Thank you. I was blanking on what it was called. They run out of the truck. They get on top of the greenhouse. The Wolfman Can't climb on top of the greenhouse, so he's attacking them from the bottom, right? You saw this today? I saw it 4 days ago. They couldn't get on top of the greenhouse, right?
Well, they had like a ladder, and then to get on top of the greenhouse, and then they, because you have those the metal posts that kind of keep it up. So they were sitting on top of the posts, and they had that polyethylene plastic where
Right.
he was trying to claw at them, and they were falling through.
Right. Okay. So they run back into the house. We're back in the cabin that we're in for the majority of the movie, and again, he can't get through the cabin. He just can't get through those cabin doors. They're too tough for him.
Well, some of them are like, because some of the windows have bars on them.
I did notice that too, and I'm like, why didn't the front door have bars on it? Why is it only the back door?
And I'm like, did it? Because there is a screen, but I guess there was no bars on the screen.
No, there wasn't anything there.
So why is everything barricaded except for the front door?
What you think you'd be the first one to barricade?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then is this the point where Blake tells them to run back into the house?
When they're on top of the greenhouse,
he runs into the woods
and then books it.
Yeah.
And they're like, we gotta get it. Yeah.
And then the werewolf chases after him. He subsequently gets back to the house, and then the final altercation is between him and his father. He has a dun 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 moment where he sees the tattoo, and then Blake becomes a Wolfman.
I will say because he kills the dad Wolfman, and he's like, "What have I done?" He looks at the wife and the daughter, and there's something about him being in pretty much like the full Wolfman makeup, and then he's like looking around like, "Oh, this is crazy," and it sort of felt like campy or silly because he at this point he should be all animal, but he's still like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah, I know. It was like Scooby Doo.
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It was a little too. It felt a little too like Vincent D'Onofrio in Men in Black.
I could totally see that comparison. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Blake, as the movie goes on, is losing more and more control of his impulses as he's becoming more of this wolf creature. He goes in and out of a conscious state. At least that's how I interpreted it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I liked how they kind of revealed that he's not making any sense to them, because you're seeing his transformation from his perspective. So it's like the scene in Wolf of Wall Street when he thinks he drives home perfectly on the Quaaludes, and then the next morning he sees that he hit 17 cars on the way home. They do the same thing where he's like, "Hey, why aren't you guys talking to me?" And then you realize that he's just going, "No, you know?
That was clever. I actually forgot about that part. Thank you for bringing that up. That was actually very clever. Yeah, I did like that.
I'm not editing this review until you like this movie.
That ain't gonna happen. I fell asleep for like a solid 2 minutes. Yeah. I woke up and he was in the basement, doing the raw thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like half asleep, so I was kind of conscious of what was happening before that. He chases the family into the woods as the Wolfman. They go back to the deer blind, which is it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Again, it's like poetry. So if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one.
Do you get that reference?
What now? What's that from?
Oh, it's behind the scenes documentary, The Phantom Menace, George Lucas.
Oh, okay. No, it's good.
Anyway, back to Wolfman. Blake chases them in the woods. They're back in the deer blind. I almost called it a wolf blind. They're back in the deer blind. And at this point, Charlotte has the gun that Derek had left behind. She points it at the Wolfman, and the daughter can sense that he wants this to end. Boom. The daughter and the mother hold each other and grieve over their fallen husband/father. Is that basically, did I remember that properly?
Yes.
Okay. So the ending I did like. I liked that they didn't do something where he's like, oh no, he actually survived. No, he's dead. They don't bring him back to life. They don't cure him of his wolfmanness. He's flat out dead. And I did like that. It had it took a darker twist than I expected, because I did expect them to find some sort of cure for him or put him in like a unit for when he turns into the Wolfman.
Yeah, do you know anything? Because I have limited experience with Wolfman or werewolf movies, but I thought that he was going to change back into a guy when the sun came up.
That was another thing that tipped me off, that maybe he did know something about werewolves, because he's like, we only need to make it till morning. He said that to the daughter at the beginning.
Yeah, well, right. But when he first saw the Wolfman in the beginning, it was during the daytime.
That's true.
So maybe it was just
True.
until it's less dangerous during the day. I don't know.
Yeah, see, this is the kind of thing that irritated me about this movie because it seemed like it was hinting to things and then it didn't come to anything. Like
Yeah.
the daughter's psychic, that actually did end up paying off, but it wasn't really explained. She just kind of was.
But you think she was actually psychic?
How else would she be able to know what the Wolfman wanted?
Oh, I thought it was just the bit where he was like, "What am I thinking?" She's like, "I'm the best daughter ever."
Well,
Yeah.
then at the end of the movie, she says he just wants it to be over. She like holds out her hand and she's like, he just wants it to be over. So I
Huh.
thought she was actually supposed to be psychic.
Oh, I thought
Because
she just like kind of saw it in his eyes or something.
at first that's what I thought too. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought she was actually supposed to be psychic.
So I did see somebody say, which was a good point. It's like, obviously Blumhouse is committed to making movies that are very low budget. And one of the things in the last few years, because they made a lot of, very successful movies that got them a stature to start doing these more mainstream movies like A Wolfman or whatever other movie came out, in the last year or two. You name it, I can't I'm blanking on it, everything right now. But if they're trying to like make that transition to more mainstream movies like A Wolfman, but they want to keep that budget. So you have this Wolfman movie, and somebody's like, "There's only 5 characters in the movie, and like
Yeah.
only one guy gets killed." It seemed like they were, they just gave us the minimal amount of what we expected them to.
Right.
For me, it was fine. Like I didn't mind it, but I did see how somebody would watch this movie and go, "Yeah, why is there 3 people in it? Why do 2 things happen?" You know?
I think another reason that this movie just kind of irked me is because I'm like super analytical about writing right now. I'm working on a script under commission for a script for my old film mentor.
Oh, shit.
So I'm constantly thinking about like structure, and this followed like every possible structure and trope without any delineation.
Mhm.
And that was like, okay, this is just, I know exactly what's going to happen. And then the father's the werewolf. Oh no.
It did
And
that to the point where the tropes were too recognizable.
exactly. And while they're not done, there's nothing in this movie that's bad, like excessively bad. It's just, it's not elevated either. It's just stock, and it's fine. Like it's fine. It's a fine movie, but I've grown tired of the formulaic, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is I saw Nosferatu. This is the second movie I've seen in theaters this year.
The first being Nosferatu.
Yes.
Okay.
But also I haven't been watching that many movies, so maybe my I've gained my tolerance for movies has gone away, so now anything's just really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, I could see why people like it. I'm friends with a guy on Facebook that does a bunch of practical horror effects locally, and he loved it. Like, I get that. Because it's his bread and butter. And like I said, I don't think it's offensively bad. If someone was really into Wolfman and they were really into horror movies, I'd say, yeah, check it out. But it just it didn't really do much for me.
Mm-hmm. So do you give ratings on these reviews?
No, I just give. Actually, what I try to do is look at things from what type of person would enjoy this.
That's pretty.
So, like I said, I'm friends with a guy on Facebook that does horror and gore practical effects. I'd recommend it to him. He'd love it.
Mm-hmm.
So someone who's just looking for that or just looking for an escape movie, it's perfectly fine. There's nothing offensively bad in it or incredibly stupid. It's an acceptable film, but it just doesn't do anything to raise that bar. It's acceptable to me.
Yeah, kind of just hangs on the bar.
Yeah, that's basically how I feel about it.
All right. Also, I don't know. I wouldn't say this movie this isn't the type of movie I would go, it was really good, man.
Mm-hmm.
But, like for me, there's 3 types of good. That was really good, man. And then there was it was good. And then there's it's good, And that's probably what I think about this. It's good. It's what I it's pretty much no harm, no foul,
Yeah, that's definitely a fair analysis and summary.
Won't have like a cult following like all the other like American Werewolf in London or those types of movies have.
You think?
I mean, does Wolfman with Benicio del Toro have a cult following?
No, I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of.
And
Does
that,
it?
and I mean, in terms of like reviews and what people seem to be thinking about this movie, this one's marginally better, well received than that one.
Okay.
So I don't know if like in 30 years or 20 years, people are going to be like, no, they slept on this movie, dude. Maybe. I hope so.
I mean, maybe it's one of those things that will gain a following over time.
But
Anyway,
one thing I just thought about when you were talking about Julia Garner. I think she's I don't want to say the perfect actress, but I think having her in this movie kind of gave it an advantage that casting an average actress wouldn't give you, where she looks like the most fragile person of all time. Like she looks like she's 45 pounds.
yeah, she looks super thin, super like the wind will knock her over. Yeah, no, she definitely had that advantage, and she had the advantage of being a very good actress.
Yes, I should mention that part.
Yeah, she's quite a good actress.
Frail. This isn't a dig on her either. I'm just making an observation.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Overall, I think Wolfman is perfectly fine. I don't think it's anything to write home about, as the expression goes. But I think it's perfectly acceptable, and I'd recommend it to someone who just wants to see a fun action horror sort of action.
It sort of turns into an action.
Yeah. What are your final thoughts?
I mean, you pretty much just said it. I think I sort of nudged you over a little bit. I thought in the beginning you were ready to just give this go 4.2 out of 10, but I think I brought you over up to me a little bit.
No, I like to get the negative stuff out of the way, But I actually I'm pretty fair to movies. I gave Trap a decent rating.
You give what?
Trap, the M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Oh, yeah,
I really like that movie.
I feel exactly about that movie like I do this one.
Trap is cool. Like the whole thing in the arena, it felt like a Hitman game.
I texted my friend Danny, and I was like, dude, it's literally just Hitman the movie, except you're a dad.
Yeah. The only problem with it is that the third act goes completely off the rails.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it. It was like, how many times could he escape a thing?
Yeah, that's the only problem with that movie. Otherwise, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's also funny. Like it's a funny movie.
Mm. Also, except for that one scene when I'm like, no, who talks? Nobody talks like this.
Oh yeah.
When the guy with the shirt, who gives him the shirt, and he's like, "Let me tell you something. Something big's about to go down."
See, the way he delivered that, I thought it was making a satirical comment. I don't know. M. Night is a crazy man, but
I like people. He was sort of he did The Sixth Sense, and then he was sort of known as like the director who makes bad movies for a while.
Yeah,
he sort of kind of restored his career a little bit. Now he's just self-funding his movies, making money, just dominating one.
Yeah, and I like Signs a lot. I like Unbreakable a whole lot. I even like Glass. A lot of people didn't like Glass. I thought it was cool.
I wasn't the biggest fan of it. Did you like the Beach That Makes You Old?
I'm trying to remember if I saw. I don't think I saw that. It kind of looked dumb. Is it all right?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was fun. I mean, that's the thing. It's like his movies are just, they're like Wolfman. You're like, yeah, I thought it was fun.
He kind of reminds me of Robert Rodriguez in that aspect. Like he knows what his stuff is, and he doesn't pretend that it's something else.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. True. So, what are your final thoughts on Wolfman?
Well, it's great. I love it. What are you talking about? But yeah. I mean, you said it. You said it best. So.
Okay. All right, man. Everyone, go check out the Director's Dossier podcast. I actually do thoroughly enjoy that show.
Thank you.
And I will see y'all later. Thank you so much, Johnny.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks.